name is Basharat Salim. I am the Executive Director at the Islamic Society of North America. I want to welcome you all to ISNA's Friday Reflections. Today, for our talk, I want to welcome Sister Aisha Al-Adawiya, whom I have known for many years. She has been an important part of ISNA. She has led many ISNA events and initiatives over the years. We really thank her for her time for today's talk. I will briefly read her bio, and then inshallah she will begin her talk for today. Sister Aisha Al-Adawiya is the founder and president of Women in Islam, an organization of Muslim women which focuses on human rights and social justice. She represents Muslim women's non-governmental organizations at United Nations forums, as well as coordinating Islamic input for the preservation of the Black Religious Heritage Documentation Project of the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. She organizes many events on Islam, gender equity, conflict resolution, as well as cross-cultural understanding and peace building. Sister Aisha serves on the boards of many organizations. We welcome her for today's talk. And Sister Aisha, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for inviting me to join you on this occasion. I'm sure that we're all aware that today is June 19th, which I reluctantly say celebrate emancipation, since that has long been a work in progress and has been denied to Black people for a very long time. So we're still in the struggle to attain those rights, inshallah. Again, I want to congratulate ISNA for convening these kinds of talks and especially providing an avenue to share the views of a wide variety of voices in the Islamic community in the United States. So I'll begin by saying, because of the current climate, I'm not much in a celebratory mood on June 19th, specifically because of the atrocities that have been happening in our country to really make it necessary for us to double down on our efforts to bring about the liberation of our people, not only in the United States, but globally. And so I want to really speak directly to young people in particular, because it is their world that they will be left with, and they will be given the responsibility to continue to make this country a more perfect union. And so I'm encouraging them to do just that. I want to say a few things about education and knowledge. I think that in the Muslim community, for the most part, there is a wide gap in terms of the knowledge that we have about the history of the United States. And it's imperative that we begin to tackle that history, learn that history. Much of it is very beautiful, but it's all very enlightening and necessary for us to grow so that we can work more effectively and positively, inshallah. So I want to suggest that that ISNA use its platform to encourage our community members to begin to make special efforts to delve into American history more generally, and specifically the history of Black people in this part of the world. Much of the successes that people who have come later on are built on the backs of sacrifices that Black people have made in this country. And it's important that we make sure that our children and our communities learn about those struggles and many successes so that we have a more even playing field, if you will. So I'm advocating that we begin to organize, and especially in this climate of COVID-19, and most people are sheltered in, and those who are not have limited access to physical gatherings. So I'm advocating that we begin to organize some forums, and I would think that reading circles would be a good place to start. Uh, the Schomburg Center has created a reading list for Black liberation. It's on the Schomburg website, schomburgcenter.org, and you can access that. And more recently, I think just today, they released a reading list for kids and for teenagers, so that you have materials for adults and for younger generations as well. So I strongly encourage us to go to the website and access those reading lists, select the ones that you would like to begin with, but do go there and make sure that you begin to establish those kinds of reading circles, because we do need to delve very deeply into this history so that we have a better understanding of what it is that we're dealing with, what we need to do, what successes we've made, what mistakes we've made, and how do we build on that, inshallah. I also want to recommend that because we've all been touched by racism. Uh, our own country was founded on white supremacy. And we need to be bold enough and honest enough to address this head on so that we can eliminate the scourge from our societies, and so that our children, have a brighter future, all of our children, inshallah. So I'm going to ask that we seek out an organization that's been doing this anti-racism work quite effectively, and it's Muslim Arc. I think again, if you go online, you will find them. But invite them to come into your organizations to conduct what I call to take your temperature, to see how complicit are we in our private lives, in our professional lives, and elsewhere. How much of the scourge of racism do we carry with us, consciously and unconsciously? So Muslim Arc is an a Muslim run organization, and I strongly encourage us to invite them to come in, conduct workshops at the board level, at the community level, and even individually, to begin to get a handle on how we have been impacted and infested with this disease of white supremacy and racism. Now, I also want to say that there are many beautiful things happening in our world as well. As you know, COVID-19 came with a vengeance, but Ramadan also came at the same time and gave us this unique opportunity to delve, to go inside and contemplate, reflect on where we are in this stage of our own journey on this path of Islam, and what are the remedies that we need to employ in order to be better human beings, and how we can better serve not only our families and our immediate community, but the wider society at large, because we live in this environment, in this society, and we have responsibilities that we have to carry out as viable citizens. So Ramadan was beautiful. It always is, but it had a special significance this year because of the pandemic. And of course, then we were more focused on our inner purification. So I hope that we can carry that forward, inshallah. And young people, I think that we need to really uh, be thankful for them. They are leading the charge to amplify the demand that people are no longer willing to be subjugated, to be mistreated, to be dehumanized, uh, no longer willing. and it's way, way overdue. And I think as elders in the society, we need to get behind them and support them and provide whatever guidance we can, so that the work can continue even more strongly into the future, inshallah. So we need to do that, and we don't have all the time in the world. So the time is now. It's a beautiful time now for us to engage on so many levels. Dr. Betty Shabazz, who was a friend of mine, used to say, find the good and praise it. Yes, see. So even in the midst of all of the tragedy, there's always a silver lining. So for us to look for that silver lining and build on that so that we can continue to grow and prosper and make meaningful contributions to our society as engaged, viable citizens with all of the rights that are given to all of the citizens, both as human rights and as civil rights in whatever part of the country we're living. So I want to say also that it is time now for us to broaden our perspective and come outside of our communities, not just engaging government agencies, but we need to make real contacts with our neighbors, with other people in the society who are not Muslim, but who are equally engaged. In many instances, they are more engaged in struggling for human dignity for everybody. So I think that we need to make a stronger effort to connect with those individuals, with those organizations, with those communities, and build stronger alliances with them. One friend shared with me once that you cannot clap with one hand. So we cannot do all of the work by ourselves. And we want to engage with other communities who share our values and whose values we share as we try to move forward again to this more perfect union. I know also that many of us who are elders are saying we are making ourselves available to anyone who wants to share with us what it is that they think we can contribute to their own growth, development, and extend our love and support to the younger generations so that they can move forward and hold the line, hang on to that rope of Islam. Don't let it go. Don't compromise it in any way. And that does not limit you in any way to achieving all of your dreams and goals, but it sets your bottom line. It becomes your charged battery that you call on constantly. Because without that, Malcolm X used to tell us that if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. And there are many things to fall for. So we want to make sure that we have a strong foundation to stand on so that when we go out into the world and begin to engage, tackle some of the many strong challenges that we have, we are not like feathers in the wind, but we have our foundations and we are moored to sound anchoring, inshallah. So, Brother Basharat, I don't know how much time we have, but I can continue chatting if you like.
Yes, inshallah. Please continue. We do have 15 minutes still available.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I wish we could do some Q&A, but I guess we can't do that this time because often when we engage people who are with us, we learn that there's much for us to learn as well from people who are not the speakers or presenters at this time. So we want to make room for those voices to be heard as well. So again, I'm going to refer you again to uh, seeking out materials to read publicly in organized, facilitated settings so that we can get at this history. Unfortunately, we can get a lot in the universities that we attend, and I know that many of our young people are in college and universities, some of the more elite universities as well. But unfortunately, you're not going to get much of the groundwork that you need to build on in those settings. You do need to create alternative learning environment so that we can really speak truth to power through our knowledge of who we are, where we are, and what our contributions are, have been, and need to be moving forward. So I'm going to really advocate very strongly for creating some kind of reading circle. Use the Schomburg list that's up on our site. There are others that are available, but do that. And I'm going to come back and check with ISNA very shortly to see how we are doing with that. And I'm available to help in any way that I can to begin to establish those kinds of avenues for education, not only at ISNA, but anyone else who would like to do that, inshallah. So I for one, am volunteering, and I know that there are others who would be more than happy to assist in this way. So I want to ask you to keep all of our people in your prayers, to always have a good opinion of each other, to love each other, and during this climate, to reach out to our people who are in need and make sure that when we say we're all in this together, I want us to really mean that, even after the pandemic is over, to make sure that we understand that we are all in this together. Because indeed, we are all in this together. You see, this concept of ummah is a very real one, and we have to live it every day. The families who've lost their loved ones and who continue to lose their loved ones, we don't have to ask questions about anything other than their humanity, and that it becomes our duty as fellow human beings to uphold their human dignity, and not stand on the sidelines uh, and be spectators, or voyeurism is not something that Muslims are called to do. We are called to stand up for justice, as the Quran says, even if it's against our own selves, even if against our own families. That's a profound calling, a mandate, if you will. So we don't need permission to jump in and share the burden, to alleviate the struggle and support the families who are struggling. Don't let elitism, unconscious bias, and racism, rule our lives. Let's be strong enough as Muslims to identify our own shortcomings, ask Allah to forgive us for those shortcomings, and build on the strengths that are around us, both in our faith tradition, in our fellow Muslims, our fellow human beings, really. There are so many beautiful things in the world that we can benefit from. And I really hope that we will have the courage to step outside our comfort zone and begin to really see the world for what it is. It's a global village, and it's a beautiful village. It's not a perfect village, but it's beautiful, and it's our village. And there's so much to draw on by engaging each other. So I hope that we will, as Muslims, come together and really love each other, in this virtual environment. I think we're all starving for a hug, or a kiss, or even a handshake, which we can't do now. But our hearts are there, and we can feel the love through so many platforms when our people come to us with their hearts open and extending out to us. And us means not just Muslims, but to everyone, inshallah. So let us do that, do the work, get in the trenches. There's no time. We don't have time to waste. I would love to celebrate, some of our holidays, even Juneteenth, you know. People are talking about, all of the festivities that surround this holiday. But I don't feel that we have the the wherewithal, the space to let up for 1 minute, because quite frankly, we are quite behind, in terms of realizing all of our potential, as Muslims, and especially in this part of the world. So I will allow you one day, not today, uh, to let up, but we have a lot of work to do, and much of it is uphill. But Allah has given us all the resources that we need to grow and to be the people that we are called to be. And I know that we can do that. We have the resources to do that. So I want to thank ISNA for this platform to allow me to chat with you very briefly. I'm available to you for anything that I'm able and capable of doing, inshallah. So may Allah bless us all. May Allah take the fear out of our hearts and give us the wherewithal to get out into the world and be the change that we want to see. We cannot leave this for our children to do, for our grandchildren to do, for our great grandchildren to do. We have a responsibility to act now, and we don't have all of the time in the world. So the time is now. So let's do it, inshallah. Thank you again for this platform, Brother Basharit Isna, and I look forward to more of these chats, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallahu khairan, Sister Aisha, for those beautiful words. Time is now, we must act. I fully agree with you. There's so much going on in our world today that we must stand up, speak up, and take action. Jazakallah khair for those lessons and those reminders of self-reflection. Alhamdulillah, we just came out of Ramadan, which gave us ample time for that self-reflection, which should not stop with Ramadan, but must continue throughout the year, inshallah. We must know ourselves, but we must also know our history, as you reminded us rightly, and speak up for justice everywhere, inshallah. Thank you for your time. We look forward to more of these events with you. Perhaps next time, inshallah, we will have some sort of a Q&A so that there's a little more interaction, I understand, and we will do so, inshallah. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of those who were watching live this talk, but it's also available on YouTube, on our website. So please visit and look forward to other programs for ISNA. We have regular programming throughout the week and on weekends. So please check out our website, look for those events. Jazakallahu khairan. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.